Hello, Bible readers. It is Friday, March 5th. We're reading from 2 Kings, chapters 11 to 13, 2 Chronicles, chapter 24, lots about Joash today, and Philemon. Philemon is one of the 7 letters that almost all biblical scholars agree was, in fact, written by Paul. The other 6 are 1 Thessalonians, Galatians, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Romans, and Philippians. The way they think these 7 fit together, and maybe these others that say they're written by Paul do not. The way they come up with this is syntax, word usage. Does what's written reflect similar theology, similar moral tone, reflecting Paul's spirit and language and style? All those things can be really studied, and those 7 letters are deemed to be, for sure, written by Paul. The letter to Philemon is different in a couple different ways. Number one, it's not addressed to a church, but it's addressed to a specific, about specific people. Second, it's a letter of mediation between 2 people. Now, forever, this letter has been used by people to justify slavery because it's about a slaveholder and a runaway slave who has now come back to his master, basically. But the slavery that happens at this time is different than what we would consider as American slavery. American slavery is based on race. And in the Roman world, there is no race-based policy for the institution of slavery, neither in the first century or really at any time. And so it's a very complicated, what is this letter trying to get at? And so many critique Paul for not saying slavery is an institution in and of itself that needs to be done away with. And instead, he's trying to coach these 2 as to how to have a more Christian, faithful slave-master-slave relationship. I think the critique is for sure valid, but that's not what the letter is about. The letter isn't about slavery. To Paul, to apologize for Paul, Paul would say this is a letter about how Christian fellowship can overcome social boundaries and constrictions. They don't need to treat each other as one's up here and one's down here, because in Christ we're all made into one. And so that's what Paul's trying to convey in the letter. But of course, the backdrop or the context is slavery. Not a great context to try to teach that lesson. So that's what Philemon is about. It's the shortest letter that Paul writes. To get at the Old Testament texts for today, in 2 Kings, we get into the Joash section. Our narrator shifts us from revolution in the north, Israel, to crisis in the south, Judah. Ahaziah, you might remember he got himself killed after a very short, just 1-year reign. And that makes David's line be threatened. Athaliah, daughter to Omri, takes power and tries to kill all the sons of the royal family. The narrator does not consider her a legitimate ruler, though. Athaliah is to Judah what Jezebel was to Israel. And actually, it seems that Athaliah is likely Jezebel's daughter. That's never explicitly said, but we can glean from all the other relationships we know that Athaliah has that Jezebel is most likely her mom. And then Athaliah marries into the Judah dynasty. Joash, though, even though Athaliah is trying to kill all of the sons, the royal family sons, she doesn't get Joash. Joash gets hidden. Jehosheba, I'm killing these names, wife of the priest who will restore the dynasty to David's line, she's the hider. Such drama. It's really hard to keep everything straight. Joash, what he does with his reign, he renovates the temple, but then he tries to buy off the Arameans with temple wealth, which is a bad idea. So it shows not even the good kings can stay good. And we see this in 2 Chronicles our reading from there. We're into a section here where 3 stories get told, just one in the chapter we read for today, but 3 stories get told about initial obedience to God followed by disobedience. Joash is the poor subject of the first cautionary tale. He listens to the wrong advice. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.